not that I want to boast but just to share my journey. Because my journey, like many of you, is very different. And I think as women, we have to recognize that everyone's journey looks a lot different. How I got to where I am is probably not the same as anyone else in this room. And I think, as women, we have to support each other and really understand the unique challenges that we have, but also that mentor and just being available for each other. I think about very many years ago, I started out when I finished all my school stuff, and I was like, okay, so what's next? Like, you think of it as this destination, right? Like you're gonna get through school and you're gonna get this destination, but it's really not about the destination, right? It's all the journey that goes on and all the learning and how you develop across that continuum. People even today will say, what is it that you want to do, right? What is that perfect job? What is it? And it's really, at the end of the day, I love people. I love to care for people. And sometimes that looks a little bit different every day, right? That might be mentoring a young professional. That may be actually caring and delivering care to someone, which I absolutely love. If you guys know me, my husband tells me all the time, if I ever get rid of it, I'm getting me like a 70-year-old, love my little geriatric patients. Love geriatric patients.
I'm going to keep that in mind.
Love them. Send your husband over for me one day. But I have a passion and, love the history and what they have to bring and share. So I'd like to start off just kind of telling a little bit about myself and my journey. So I, as Jennifer said, am fairly young comparative in the work field that I work in. I would say probably one of the youngest leaders. And that poses its own challenges, right? I think a lot of times having that confidence that you can sit at the table with someone who's, had the amount of experience that since you've been alive, they've been a nurse, right? But learning what you can take from them and vice versa. So as a small child, ever since I can remember, my great-grandmother was a nurse. And nursing then was very different. I remember getting in a car and driving around Gastonia and going to folks' house. She had a lot of elderly friends. She worked until she was 93. And we would go and do dressing changes and change catheters and do, whatever it was they needed. And back then there were a little less rules. You could just bring kids with you to work. That doesn't necessarily work now. And she just emulated just a woman of grace and kindness and caring, but also she had that presence and that leadership and caring for others, but also knowing what she had to contribute to the community. So as a little kid, I'm going to be a nurse, not really understanding what that was, right, or what opportunities you have. So I went away, my first year of school, I thought I was going to go to nursing school, and life happens, and at 19, I had my son. I got pregnant with my son at 19, I had him when he was 20, and I ended up going to Gaston College. He was a couple weeks old, and it was a lot. You're going to school, you have this little baby. I'm very fortunate, and I understand that not everyone has the support system and how to navigate that. My family is very, very supportive. They always have been. But you also have a lot of challenges, right? It's immediately people saying, now you're not going to be able to go to nursing school. You're not going to be able to do these things. For me, that was like ammunition, okay, well, watch me. So don't tell me I can't do something, because that really makes me want to do something. But you have to know who your circle is, right? And grow in that circle. I'm very fortunate. I have a very, very supportive family, supportive in-laws, supportive spouse. And that was not easy, right? Going through nursing school with a little baby. It was challenging. It was very challenging. But it was something I was passionate about, and I knew that I wanted to do and accomplish. So best experience I ever had, Gaston College, I tell people all the time, it was probably the most 2 difficult years of my life. But when you have a goal and you sit down and you go to achieve it, and you have your eyes on that prize and what you want to achieve, sometimes it's all the noise right around you, and knowing that sometimes that might mean when other people are out at a concert or doing something else, it's just focusing on what that is. And it's short-lived, right? Like, it's one of those things, you know you got to put your focus on it for a short amount of time, and then when you have it, all those other things fall back into place. So, you know, for me and my journey, I was able to continue school even after that. I've been at Caremont Health for 16 years. I've had some wonderful mentors. So, you know, thinking about my circle that grew really from a small family to now my coworkers. My first nurse manager, I remember she came in on a night shift. One night I worked night shift because it was when you made more money and I needed to make more money, right? Like, young mom. And I wanted to go back to school. So she came in one night and she was like, you know, you would be a really good assistant manager. And I'm like, me? You're crazy. No, like, what are you thinking? And she's like, yeah, I see a lot of innate, you know, leadership skills. I think you would do great. Like, no, like, I want to be a nurse. Like, I want to take care of my patients and go home, and that's all. Like, this is what I set out to do. I'm good. Like, I'm happy. And I remember going back and being like, what is it that she saw in me that maybe I didn't recognize myself? And being able to take that leap and say, okay, well, maybe I can be that person. I think sometimes we look at other women around us and say, they're the leader, right? Or they're on this journey and they have all these things, but all of us have that, right? We're all unique in how we get there, but we all have opportunity to share and help others, and whatever that may be. So I took that job right, it was like, I'd been a nurse for 18 months, I had no idea what I was doing at all. But I took a leap of faith, and she, to this day, I still keep in contact with her. We work together still, and I tell her all the time, it really was, you know, I think people are put in your life for a certain reason, and at that time, you know, it was an opportunity for me to push myself, and she saw things in me as a young leader herself, an opportunity. So I do think that's important, you know, as you're going through your journey, whatever that may be, is to have those women who are around you who can, you know, there's days that are hard that can cheerlead you on and say, yeah, you can do it, right? Like, I always say, you know, if it's uncomfortable and you're a little bit scared, it's probably the right thing. You never grow in a comfort zone. And if you're not growing, you're going the other way, you're regressing. So fast forward, I have been given opportunities there at Caremont, just the leadership team there, putting a lot of trust in me and ability. As I've grown throughout there, I've had a lot of resources, help, been through programs, I would say, going through Leadership Gaston, being a part of this community for so long, there were still so many things that I didn't know about the people around me, right? I mean, so many of you today, even though I'm a native of this community, you guys are all natives, we're like, how do we not know each other? So networking and embracing that and being around other women who are like-minded and want to make a difference, whatever that is. I think we all have different things that are near and dear to our hearts, but without each other, you know, we can do some things, but we're much stronger as a force of women together. So as I continued on my journey, I've had great opportunities to continue to learn and give and serve. One of the eye-opening things for me after I finished school was like, how do I, you know, I love being a nurse and in the building, I love hospital work, but how do I start giving back outside of that, right? Like, how do you connect to the community, knowing that I love to care for people, but sometimes when we're in our silo, right, I go to the same building every day for 16 years, how do I connect with other people outside of that? So being part of the junior league, it was kind of one of those random things. I was like, how am I going to meet other women like-minded who want to lead and be involved and give back? And I went to my first meeting, and it was a great opportunity for me. I have met some of my best friends to this day. We still travel together. Some of us worked together, and we didn't even know we worked in the same building, and we had no idea. But just connecting, right? Connecting in any way that you can with other women, other organizations, that's how you learn. I didn't learn, necessarily how to be a great nurse because I learned from someone who did things exactly the way I did. You learn because other people have different experiences, whether it's growing. The past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to actually volunteer at our local high school a lot. And the things that I learned there, and what the needs of the kids are, and I can take back, managing a behavioral health unit, and like, these are the challenges that the kids are having in school. How do we take that back? So each having their own unique experience that we can really bring back, and how do we grow from that? Because I think the more diverse that you can make yourself out in the community, whether you're volunteering, you're part of organizations, you have so much to learn from each other, and learn, what challenges that I see the challenges in this big white building every day, but really what happens every day in that school, that those kids are having those very unique challenges. So, as you're going through your journey, and I think about it again as a journey, people ask all the time, like, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to do? I want to care for people. Like, I really do care about people. I love giving care. I love whether it's, I have a nurse manager that I've mentored for several years, and she's ready to take her next step. That's exciting for me, like, to see someone else. I think sometimes those are a little bit harder because you don't see that immediate gratification, right? When you're a nurse at the bedside and you can put a tube down someone and they feel so much better, it's that instant gratification. But when you're mentoring, leading other women, sometimes it might be 5 or 10 years that they come back down the road and they're like, thank you. I got a text a couple weeks ago from this young lady, and she was like, I just want to tell you thank you. And it's been years since we actually worked beside each other. She was like, thank you for believing in me. And I can go back to that nurse manager I had many years before that, and say, thank you for, thinking that I can do this, like just having faith and believing. Because I think sometimes, as you said, like as women, we don't like to boast on ourselves. We think, we don't always have the confidence to push ourselves outside of that. And having a group of women around you, or loved ones and family, who can push you to say, yeah, you can do that. You're gonna do great. You're gonna do a great job. Because you can't do it alone, right? You cannot make it through this world alone. You need your team. You need your people, and people who love you, but also embrace your journey and are gonna push you forward. It's not easy, always. It's not always rainbows and butterflies, and sometimes it's limiting, right? When you're really focused on a goal and something that you want to achieve, sometimes other things you have to prioritize what those things are for a short amount of time. So, as I've went through my journey, I'm in the process now of, as Jennifer said, we are building a new facility in Belmont. And what an opportunity for me to, I am not an architect, but I've learned to appreciate care in a different way, right? So given that opportunity, the opportunity that someone saw in me to say, okay, how do you as a clinician develop this, be a part of the development of this building to ensure, and I don't take that lightly. Someone, gave me that opportunity to say, how can we change care? How do we change the delivery of the care, and do what's best for our patients? So, again, knowing your circles, I think being around those who challenge you, and sometimes that can be difficult, right? To have a friend that says, what are you doing? Like, you can do this, get up there, go. And taking the leap of faith. So I would say, your commitments, think about what's important. I hear a lot of times from people, especially, people have these goals, they want to do things. I don't have time for that. You make time for what's important, right? We all in this room have the same 24 hours every day. And we have to decide what it is that's important for us. What is it that, brings us joy every day? What is it that we're committed to? What's important to me is probably a little bit different than what's important to Dara or Jennifer, or friend. And we have to prioritize what that is that's going to get us through our journey, how we want to be there. Because sometimes you can't do everything, right? You can't do everything. You have to surround yourself with people who can help you out sometimes, and being okay with that, to say, hey, do you mind doing this? I think as women, sometimes that's hard, right? To say, hey, can you help me out? Can you do this? I will be the first to say I have floundered many times because I didn't want to ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask other people who are around you in that circle, that security that you have, to say, you know, right now I need to focus on this. Can you help me with this? You can't do everything alone. As a very type A person, you know, we want to control sometimes those things, and I have learned that throughout my journey is how do you let go and trust and give other people the opportunity, right? So when you're delegating that and have those women around you, you're not only benefiting yourself, you are allowing them the opportunity to grow and opportunity to do things that maybe they didn't feel like that they could do themselves. I always say, again, if it scares you, it's okay. No one ever grows in a comfort zone, right? Like that's probably the right choice for you, getting through that. And again, can't do everything. You got to decide what brings you joy, what brings you happiness, what's through that goal. Some days are hard. I just took my son to, he's turning 19 tomorrow. So last year he graduated. We were supposed to, you know, we were thinking the hospital construction. You guys think housing construction's crazy. There's, you know, a whole different level when you're building a huge building. So we kind of postponed and said, you know what, like, to me this is important, let's go. We took a vacation this past week, took him for a few days to San Juan. If you haven't been, it's so beautiful. And I was thinking, you know, I was getting to sit on the beach with him, and I really tried the past year when we're together to really enjoy that. Your kids do go from these little people to these big people overnight, and it happens so quickly. So being present when he is home. And I was thinking about, you know, we're sitting on the beach, and in my mind, I'm thinking of this Saturday, and I'm sitting at the computer. It was when I was getting my doctorate, for 16 hours straight, just like sitting at the kitchen table. My husband has the kids, they're going to the pool, they're going to do all these things, and thinking, this moment right here is when I did this, right? Like, it was short-lived, I had to do it, it was a goal I had in my mind, but that's what allowed me to be where I am today. And sometimes when you're in that, you're sitting at the kitchen table for 16 hours alone, you're like, is help gonna come? But it does, right? It does. And sometimes it's just those short-lived things that you have to push yourself through, whether it's, you know, working out. I think about Jen, she used to, come on, you can do anything for 30 minutes, right? Even though you feel like you're gonna die. You won't. My muscles are contracting. I have jello legs. But sometimes it's just pushing through. That's right. Nobody grows in their comfort zone. So, you know, I really truly do believe, like, it took many years, you know, sitting on that beach thinking, that was why I did that, right? That's why I sat there for that 16 hours. And even though I missed that day, now I have these opportunities to move forward and do all these other things. Doing uncommon things. I think I've learned so much around my journey doing things that weren't really what people would say, like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you volunteering at school? You don't even have a kid at the school anymore. Just the perspective and how you learn from different people and different things, being involved in things that sometimes you don't really think that, like, how's that gonna relate to my everyday world and my everyday job? But you definitely gain a different perspective, right? From different people, being involved in here. I've learned so many today. I'm like, oh, I got a contact for my dog now. You know, getting out there and just being engaged with different folks. Because again, we need each other, right? You may need a contact one day when you come to the hospital, or how do I navigate care? And that's one of my things I love. You know, how do we support people and families through those transitions? There's never a perfect time. You know, I think about when I was going to nursing school and feeling like my life had, you know, changed so drastically, and how is this going to happen? How is this going to work? But it does. And sometimes it's in those moments that push you harder. when you have that person. You know, I think about when I was going through school and just coasting along, you know, thinking, and then I have this new purpose, right? I have this person I have to take care of now. Like, I gotta get through it. There's not a option. Like, we gotta get going. Like, we gotta do this. So sometimes it's hard, and understanding not everyone is the same. How I got there, and that's always difficult sometimes for me, you know, being honest, being in a room full of leaders who've been there for sometimes, you know, 20, 30 years, who, you know, have very traditional backgrounds and go through things. We all have different journeys. How I got here today and being in this room and meeting Jennifer 15 years ago, you know, everything happens for a reason, and how I got here today is probably different than, you know, I'm just here today to learn, and I've embraced that for you. But really taking the time to understand that you can do things on your way, right? Your journey's your journey, and it's not a destination. Again, like, I think we think of titles and we think of these things, but it's those moments that really make you who you are through that process. It's not the title at the end of the day. It's not, you know, I'm very proud of, you know, my degrees and all the things that I've been able to accomplish, but really what I'm most proud of is what I've learned about myself along that way, and how I can help other women who maybe feel like that's not an option for them, that maybe they, I can't go to school, I got this. There are people who can help and support you, and it happens, right? So, change is inevitable. It's gonna happen, right? Embrace the change. If it's not, it's gonna change, and it's gonna challenge you, and just embracing that. You know, we can all, again, we have 24 hours in a day. We can all have these excuses of why we can't do things and things that are important for us. But again, you prioritize in your day and in your journey what's important for you. Again, I think accepting the journey, that was hard for me. Even when Jen asked me again to speak, I'm like, why me? What is it about me that makes me, you know, this leader? And for years, my husband, we would be out, he would say, someone would say, what do you do? I say, oh, I'm a nurse. And he's like, you're not. Like, you're so much more than that. Don't give yourself the confidence and the appreciation for that. So learning to embrace that, right? Embracing that journey, embracing those, it's not about the titles, but it's the things and that responsibility, and taking that responsibility. And being a leader is, you know, a choice. It's a lifestyle at times. Getting through some difficult times. There's times you have to sacrifice and do things that are difficult, but being confident with that. So again, if I can just say, you know, as you're going through life, it's not about where you get at the end. It's about the people along the way, the journey. What's those people that you're able to network with, get with, and those people who really help you grow and see yourself in a different light along the way. And I challenge myself, you know, as a leader, as a woman leader, not only how do I lead, but how do I, now that I have had all these opportunities to network with you ladies, but then how do I give that back to other women? We all need that. We all need each other. We all have unique things to say, hey, you can get involved in this. This will be a great opportunity for you. I challenge, you know, get involved, get out of that comfort zone. It's challenging, but those are the things that make a difference at the end of the day. And then being able to give back to those other women who sometimes might need that little push themselves, right? So I think that's the important thing as women leaders. You know, we're sometimes going through that leadership journey change for ourselves, but then what can we empower other young women? Having a 13-year-old daughter, whew, you know, they have their own unique things, but being an example for other young women, it's hard. It is a really hard world out there for these young girls. Unique challenges that we did not face. The social media, just the whole thing, I remember being in middle school, and it was hard. Middle school was not fun. But you got to go home, right? You went home to your safe space, and you didn't have to see those people again, and you were good, at least for a couple hours. That doesn't happen now, right? Like, they go home now, and they're bombarded by these messages, or just bullying people, you know, just constant feel to need to be approved. So again, any opportunity that we can have, whether it's a teenager or young women in leadership, to share our stories and our challenges and how they can persevere through those as well. And empowering each other. You know, I think it's so important as we, there's so many women around us that challenge us in our own unique ways, that make us better people, and surrounding ourselves with those. And sometimes that's hard. You know, again, I think about the days early on in my career where maybe I was at the table or working all night, and friends are at concerts and they're doing all these things, and again, sometimes that reward comes much later, but you can see it. Like, looking back 10 years ago now, I'm sitting at the kitchen table, I'm like, this is what I worked for, right? And these are the people that I've been able, not only for myself, but other people I've been able to impact along the way. So again, I'm so thankful for the opportunity and the journey that I've had. I do not think without the challenges that I've experienced and some of the curves, I always say my life, you know, was like this, and went a little bit of a roundabout way to get to where I am. I never again thought, when I went to nursing school, I would have an opportunity to build a $300 million building, and to get to change delivery of care of people across the counties. But there's no limits. You know, when you set yourself and you have other women pushing you and other women who are supporting you, there are no limits. The only person that limits us normally is ourselves, right? So I thank each of you that, several of you that I've known over the years that have encouraged me, empowered me, understanding, you know, now that I have the opportunity to continue that and share those journeys, and maybe, you know, some little takeaway today that says, you know, for someone else that, yeah, my journey might look a little bit different, but it's the journey, right? It's the journey. It's not about where we're going. And my road to where I got here is a little bit different, but it's okay. It's okay how we all get here. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I thank you, ladies. You are all awesome and doing such amazing work throughout the county. Again, you know, we all work in these silos, but it's really us collectively making that difference. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about myself and things that are important. And, you know, just leaving with this quote: living for the sake of others inspires us. Loving and know oneself is the core of peace and leadership. So really reflecting, you know, on ourselves and how we got here, I think brings us back to that leadership journey, and it gives us an opportunity to reflect and think about where we are, and then where else is it on the way, right? What else is going to happen along the way? So thank you. Go out there and say lots of yeses to things that are important to you, and knowing that if it's a little bit scary and it causes you to sweat, I'm a sweater, obviously, it's good, right? Like, it's good. It's a good thing. It's the things that push us to make ourselves a little bit better. If life was easy, we would never grow and we wouldn't challenge ourselves. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share. Any questions or anything?
Any questions of Trish?
I have one. So, as a type A control freak, y'all that, yeah. So, what do you do to identify the areas, or how do you make yourself let go? Because that's the hardest thing.
It is very challenging. You know, we want to do things, we want to do all the things, we want them done the way we want them done. I learned very quickly in my career as a leader, just because it's not the way that I would do it doesn't mean it's wrong. And that's hard, because for some of us, you know, and we want to know that it's done, right? learning who can you trust, who's on your team, what can you give them, building that team around you, I think is so important. Cause I had a really hard time with that, like how do I give someone something and I'm not constantly, did you do this, did you do this, did you do it the way I want you to do it? You know, even letting your children, your husband, like, did you clean the house the way I would clean it? Did you wash those dishes? But you can't do it all alone. And I think really understanding that if I wanna do more and I wanna touch more lives, I need to surround myself with a support of people who I trust, and you train and you really have that trusting relationship that I trust, like, hey, if I go tell Dara and I say, hey, like, I really need help with this project, I don't have that trusting relationship with you to say, I know she's gonna get it done. Like, I don't have to worry about that. And sometimes letting go is a lot. The more you do it, the little easier it gets. But yeah, for us type A's, and then when you're sometimes surrounded with those people who are real laid back, that gets you a little even more amped up. I know for me, my husband is very, very laid back, and I'm like, why are you not nervous about this? But if we were both like that all the time, it would be a disaster. For sure. So I think, you know, having those trusting people around you and trusting yourself that you have these people around you and you can always follow up, but again, just because it's the way and the journey that they had to get it done doesn't mean, and it's different, doesn't mean it's wrong.
I love that.
Other questions of Trish?